Hey guys, welcome back to Ruck and Roll, and I've got my good mate back with me, Rian. You guys should know him by now. He was in a few of our podcasts already, and we've had a chat around the Springboks not too long ago. I think it's a week or two ago. So by now you should know him. Rian, welcome.
How's it going, Joe? To
Good,
be
good, good.
chatting rugby again?
Chatting rugby again, and of course, Rian actually stays in Auckland. He came to visit me in Christchurch the last time you watched the videos, but today he's back in Auckland, and we're using the digital world, and we're gonna do this online. The Springboks versus France. What's your thoughts around this game?
That was a hard stopper, man. Yeah, that was not good for the blood pressure. Stress levels was pretty high, and yeah, I can't really say that that was what was expected. The way the game started off. I think once Rassi and Jock surprised us with the team selection for that game, it was clear that something's cooking and the maestro is planning to pull some strings. And yeah, oh boy, did he pull some strings? And that the boys just, I think it's reached that point where you just don't know what the box is going to bring on the day. And
one Hundred
that,
percent.
that first off
Did,
was
did it surprise you that they
absolutely
were
crazy.
running? Were they running? They were running the French. I mean, what did you think of that in general? I mean,
So,
did you
I
expect
mean, it
it?
was clear with the team selection that they were planning to start off quick and to run. Um, I think they would have liked to try and get the crowd out of the game a little bit, maybe put some scoreboard pressure on early, try and push out a little bit of a lead, and then once the bench started coming up, then to use it to consolidate and perhaps defend. And that's off to the French. They stepped up to it as well. They were giving the Box a hard time. They weren't really able to really dominate any of the points. It was pretty fairly contested.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was hell of a crazy. It's just like the French trying to
crazy
speed
man.
it up, and
It's
then the
good.
Box just doubling down, and
It's
yeah,
good.
we'll
Good
speed it
getting
up even more.
getting the win though, because often we find in these close games. I mean, I don't know how you felt in that last 15 minutes. The Springboks trying to run down the clock in their own half, and all that you're thinking to yourself is, "Oh boy, this is it. Somewhere the Pont's gonna milk a penalty. Or trying O'Keefe and trying O'Keefe," and luckily we didn't concede that penalty, because I just felt, whoa, this is really dangerous in our own half, right to the end. Were you also? I saw you watched. Where did you watch that game, and how did you feel?
The Box game,
Yeah.
well, the first watch was at the office. I was busy working. It
You
was
also,
a little
me,
bit
me also.
unfortunate with the Monday morning hours, but
Yeah,
yeah, so just watched with a couple of colleagues, whatever. So last couple of minutes, we kind of put the phone on hold and
yeah.
watched the last couple of minutes play out. But yeah, it was the second day in a row. I mean, the All Blacks game, that last couple of minutes, and yeah, so I think that All Blacks game kind of had me prepared for the stress in that last
Yes, for
couple of
sure,
minutes, and
for sure.
just hoping that the boys don't get pinged for sealing off, because that's always the problem, right? When they
Yeah,
start doing the pick and drive to chew up 2 minutes worth of time,
yeah. And you saw
somebody
the
gets
Pond
lazy and
tried it.
just drops over the ball.
Yeah, and the Pond tried it. Did you see that at the end? He was
Uh,
trying everything. He was just pointing at O'Keefe and pointing. And I think it was a blessing for the Springboks having a southern hemisphere. We were kind of wary of this, but at the end, I think it was a bit of a blessing, because I don't know. I think obviously all these refs want the final, and I think it comes with a big bag of money. So they want to ref the best type of game they can. But I was quite pleasantly surprised to see that, because I thought, hosts trying to milk a penalty, and you thought it's going to go their way, and it didn't, eh? Yeah.
yeah, I suspect that that's possibly part of the reason why the team was selected in the way that was selected is, you know, picking up the pace and playing the running game and more free flowing. It kind of helps negate the influence that the crowd and the ref can have on the game if we play our normal, like, forwards dominating, maul it up kind of play. It's quite easy to get pinged by basically the crowd.
Yeah.
So uh, there was really not that many breakdown points or set pieces to play off, which was it's not to our strength necessarily, but I think on the day and for the occasion that was probably part of the plan. If I have to try and figure out what's going on in the brain trust's mind, I suspect that was partial to the decision that they made and why they went with the team that they went.
Yeah, from my point of view, I thought that, with Marnie starting, we all anticipated Marnie and Quiba starting. I anticipated the kind of running game. The parts that kind of surprised me a little bit is we did do the rush defense, but it was almost like we gave them some space. That's what I felt like. It really felt like they were putting the pace on the game. And it felt like the first half we really also kind of just tried to match their pace. It looked like Rusty and them said, let's just go run them back. Let's go take them on, run them back. In that first half, that was the feeling I got from the first half. And what I felt was a bit for me concerning in the first half. If we discuss first half, basically first half first. The other thing from the first half that kind of concerned me a little bit was just their kicking game. The up and under game. Funny enough, when I looked at the highlights again, the up and unders were the tries. So the one from Orange, the one from Dillalindi, it came from up and unders. So it actually, but it was very kind of like the bounce of the ball type tries. It wasn't like we were lucky we were competing. We weren't lucky, but. It was those type of ones. But what I found from the rest of the game from the French was the territorial game was an issue. We were playing a lot in our own half. I don't know if you also felt that. We were in our own half quite often. And they were just like pushing.
No, I mean the speed of that game was ferocious, and it's not the Springboks like
DNA.
strength playing at that kind of pace.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like I felt that it was strange to me because it almost feels to me like what the Springboks coaching staff are doing this year is they're just saying, listen, we're going to try everything. And I think they're trying to play total rugby. They're like, they feel they've got nothing to lose in many ways, but a lot to lose. So what I feel with that is just like, they definitely, for me also, in my opinion, felt first off, they went out to run them. And they wanted to run the French as much as the French wanted to run the Springboks. And I mean, on that day, I got to tell you, the Pont seemed like he didn't have any injury even, like the way he played. Those little dinks over the defense line. And just generally, it felt to me like the French was also up for it. I mean, with all those fans and everything. And it was just an interesting first half. It felt like such a speed game. It wasn't a counter from the Springboks trying to play something differently. They were playing exactly the same type of game, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it plays to the tactics as well. I don't think it's just by chance, but the French and the Pont specifically with those little dinks over the top. Man, he was hurting us big time.
Yeah.
Having to scramble to get back and defend on that. But I almost got this feeling where we like kind of lulled them into a false sense of security of you'd be able to run anything at us. And that first off, I think it was just Peter Steff on the field that's got the license to rush. And I don't know, I haven't really viewed the game in that much detail, and whether it was just the Pont playing off the other direction than the side of the field that Peter Steff was maybe setting up to rush the defense. But I got that feeling once we got into the second half and that second set of 3 replacements was made, and Paf de Klerk came up as well. I kind of felt like they set up with Faf on the one side of the rucks and Peter Steve and Jesse Creel maybe on the other side. And that rush defense was, then you had a guy with the license to shoot up on either side. And, that really started putting a lot of pressure. And upon that to, like kind of run with more ball. They had better cover at the back, picking up the little dink over the top. And it's just that moment, that second set of substitutes came onto the field. I already told my colleague next to me, it's like, that's it. There's no more tries for the rest of the game. Not the box won't score another try. The French won't score another try. This has now become a game of D, and it's just going to be defended out.
Yeah, and he was right.
And,
Yeah, he was right.
It was massive, the defense. Once those guys stepped up to the plate as well, it was just we put them under so much pressure, and they don't have that freedom. And I think once you like kind of lull them into that, you can run anything in the first half. That sudden surprise and change in tempo of the defense maybe caught them off guard a little bit. And
you make a good point, because I only realized actually now that you say that, I think the rush defense was more kind of like in your face second half. I felt Jesse Creel was also more aggressive the second half when it came to the rush defense. Really good game from him as well. Yeah, I mean, I think you got a good point in the rush defense, definitely being more aggressive in the second half. But what I also felt that I picked up in the second half is I felt they were playing a bit deeper. So they were also kicking deeper, because the first half you'd see they were doing a lot of up and unders, but it was very kind of shallow, contestable up and unders, where the second half you saw, Pollard kicking deeper, and you had Orange and Colby with their pace really chasing in deep and catching, the French back in their own half. And then the great thing about that, if you get any penalty or mistake there, it's Springbok scrum in their half. So I just felt their tactic in the second half, I think, came off so much better than the first half. The first half I felt was like kind of fire with fire in many ways, but second half we just played a better territorial game, although they were kind of winning the territorial game when you looked at the stats, but it definitely felt to me like a better second half. I don't know what you felt.
It was definitely a game of two tactics, and a definite shift. And you mentioned Jesse Creel, and hats off to that bloke. He had one hell of a game.
Crazy, eh?
Like with all the HIA and the substitutes coming on and off.
What did you think of that HIA thing, man? it's a thing right now. But I mean, we use what we can, and I mean, people can say what they want. They need to know they're dealing with Rassie and Jock. It's never been any different, has it?
I think Rassie is like, his ace up his sleeve. He's figured out the loophole in the rules where he's just waiting for the opportunity where we lose one of the front rowers on a yellow card or something, and between the HRAs and shifting players around, you've got this guy slotting in on a hooker and this guy moving across to prop or whatever. Next thing you know, we set for a scrum, we've got 17 players on the field, and everything is legal because there's some loophole in the rules.
And he's always going to push the envelope. That's just one thing you got to know of Russ. He's tested world rugby in so many ways, but that's why we love it, and many people do. I mean, it's just, that is what it is. You shouldn't be surprised.
Fair play is fair play. I mean, there's no difference in the coaching staff, playing tactical versus somebody like Korichi Mkor, which was renowned for his ability to play on the edge of the rules on the field.
Yes, looking on, almost just not coming on in the from the side, just making sure he gets in on the gate, but quite often questionable if he was coming in on the gate. But very clever with those kind of things. So I hear what you're saying there.
The rules is there for everybody, and everybody can use it in the same way.
Look, anything bad from the game? Sorry, I'm interrupting, but that you felt from the Springboks they could have done better. I want to twist it a bit, just because I'm curious to hear. What do you think they could have done better? Like Because we always, we won the game, but let's be honest, Rian, we won this game with 1 point, and I do feel in many ways we put ourselves in a position where I felt we could have beat the French a little bit better, and I might sound like an old school Springbok supporter, but I think we could have played a bit more to our set pieces. I expected something different in the second half. I expected Apollo to kind of play a little bit more to the corners and kind of try and push for set piece, and kind of like work through, especially try and find penalties with scrums in the opposition half. I just felt like we really kept them in the game by just keeping on playing a running type game right through the game. Yeah, what's your thoughts there on that?
Yeah, I think if the only problem with, especially with the French side, they're a very good team in negating your strengths and removing your set piece play from the game. I mean, if you have a look how few lineouts or scrums there was throughout the game, the handling on both sides was, at the pace the game was being played, it was really good.
Very.
Yeah. And the number of lineouts being so low, it's just like, if you play to a set piece, it's not going to be your set piece. You're going to be playing off a defensive lineout.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were having a good solid lineout when they got it clean and got that maul going. They were dangerous. So you don't necessarily want to set them up on a lineout, and they weren't kicking the ball out. They'll just stitch it back into our territory. So you're going to end up, struggling for territory. You might be able to set up possession eventually, but kicking it deep, you're going to either end up defending.
No, I'm literally saying do old Springbok rugby.
Running it back at you.
Yeah, I'm saying play old Springbok rugby, play it into the corners, into their half, put them under pressure in the lineouts. Then that puts them under pressure. If there's any mistakes there, anywhere in that game, you're in their half all the time. Because what the French do very well is they kick deep and they play a territorial game, and then they want you to make the mistake. The French is not a team that specifically or necessarily they've said this before, they don't mind having to play with the ball. They'll rather kick it to you so you make the mistake, but you make the mistakes in your own half. So what I just felt is we were playing out of our own half quite often, and I just felt that if we maybe played, kind of more of that type of thing into the corners, try and contest the lineouts, and try and see if they can make mistakes in their own half, because they still have to kind of like exit out of their own half, and it is a lot more difficult from a line out. So I mean, if you had to look at the French and at the Springboks, who do you felt was like standout players in this game?
Oh man, that is an odd question, because the level on this game was just
everyone was
so
good,
high that I don't really think there was any
poor
players that really had a bad day.
Guys that stood out.
If anything, maybe like Willie had a bit of a handling error.
Yeah. Well,
it was the
what's
one
new?
knock on, and other than the one knock on, he got into the line a couple of times, got the ball moving in as well. It's definitely not a all bad kind of scenario.
Yeah.
On defense, it's very difficult to go and have a look at any like missed tackle numbers or anything like that. With the rush defense, you're always going to miss tackles.
But the cross defense was good, because they had someone covering all the time. Like, even though they break one tackle, there's someone again to cover it, which I found very interesting. If you rewind like 2-3 years ago, that was one of our biggest problems. If we came up quickly against Australia and some of these teams, if they broke our line, there wasn't enough cover defense, which I see they've basically gotten right, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think the boys really just ran themselves ragged, and they left it all out on the field. I don't think any of those players had anything left in the gas tank after that game.
No, it's a different story.
It was a full effort from everybody, and that's probably the reason why there were so many possible concussions that they had to go and have a look at as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And rotating the players a little bit. Because, I don't know, I wouldn't go as far as saying the the coaching staff is lying to us, but they
Yeah.
must have a different camera angle than the one that we had on TV because, well, Peter Steve was off the field for HRI test after he ran over the top of the pond. So the head contact was on the other side of that equation, but
Yeah.
yeah, he went off for the assessment.
They were working it. So look, I mean, from my point of view, I felt Dupont, obviously from a French point of view, he was just for a guy that was injured. That we thought, you know what we discussed it on our last podcast. This guy was phenomenal. It looked like he wasn't injured. He was taking hits. I mean, from a lot of players. I remember very specifically one with Jesse Creel with his like elbow in his face. Guy just stood up. He had, and he was again like the Springboks. Even though they were trying to mark him, he had a lot of space quite often, and he did create a lot of dangers in that blind side, like you mentioned in that first half. So I thought he was really good. And I felt Jelly Bear had some great breaks again. A very kind of dangerous running front foot player that do break the line quite often. And from a Springbok point of view, I've got to say probably the guys that I felt that everyone played well. It's hard to have to single out certain good players, but from the bench, I thought Kwaha was phenomenal again. Like that guy has just been. And I mean, if we look at Kwaha for how long now, when that guy comes on the field, he just puts in 150%. And then another guy like that for me was Cheslin Colby. Two guys that really stood out on that field from a attacking point of view, from a Kwaha from a jackling point of view, and just like Kwaha's the first run that he had, he broke like 5 tackles. And I mean, we can go on. Etzebev, he's had a quiet World Cup. When it mattered, I mean, he had a lot of meters to make there, the way he pushed those guys over. And now everyone's like, oh, no James Lowe, he's out of the World Cup. But everyone was just, oh,
But he had,
James Lowe picked up Etzebev. I'm like, yeah, well, what do you say now?
but Etzebeer had fresh legs for that drive, man. He
Yeah,
had 10 minutes to rest and
to rest.
uh, fill up
Yeah,
the lungs a little bit, and he was good to go again. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
Waka's just, I think that's the green and gold version of Audi Sevilla, man. That guy just
Exactly,
he just
exactly.
throws himself wildly into any contact, and his
100%.
ability to get in on on the jackal, and where he's able to get in to get a ball out,
Mm,
it's unreal. He's a
mm.
special player in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on. I mean, there was guys like Krill. I thought Krill had an outstanding game this time. His timing on his tackles and his rush defense was really good. I mean, that guy just played an amazing game. You had like the Orange every time when there's an opportunity, he takes it. There was just, I mean, overall the team was just phenomenal, and there's so many standout players in general. And that's, I think, if you go look at France, you can name a few. There was just a lot of players that didn't seem on their total best form. A Dante, a Peno. They had some opportunities that they weren't outstanding. I mean, some of those kicks that they kicked out weird. Ramos kicking a ball out on the full. They were making mistakes under the pressure, and I don't feel from an overall perspective from the French, they were all so many standout players as what the Springboks had. Maybe looking with my own Springbok glasses at it, but I do feel that overall the Springboks, from an overall 23-man squad, everyone contributed. And again, you could see, and this is something the Springboks believe in, is the contributions that the bench brings, which I
Yeah,
felt they just brought so much.
yeah. It was again, the tactical play that was happening on the field, and one of the big moments for me, I think it was around 60 minutes or probably around the 60-minute mark, where Willemse caught the mark and called for the scrum.
Yeah, how
And
was that?
I, I think that took a large part of the French tactics away from them, because
Yeah,
their whole tactic is kick it deep.
yeah,
You catch it deep, and then you got to decide, are you going to kick it back or run it at them, and they back their defense, and
mm,
that's how they win the territorial game.
yeah,
And suddenly you just like, kind of change it up a little bit. Okay, we'll take the set piece from over here. I think the fact that we got the penalty off the ensuing scrum was a bonus.
Yeah.
But I think it was just that like it's a reset for the players, get all the forwards to walk back comfortably, catch their breath, set and go again.
Yeah.
On your terms.
Yeah.
And suddenly the kicks from France didn't go as deep.
Yeah, and I mean, like, generally, I thought that was that's what I just liked about the second half a little bit more. The Springboks were playing in the French half, and that I liked. And what did you think of, you know, it came off for the Springboks at the end with because if you think of that kick that Pollard put through, that, you know, is the make or break actually in this game. If you look at the score at the end, I mean, there's many variants, but you know that the chances of a Moni Libok or de Klerk putting that through, maybe at de Klerk, but you know, having Pollard there at the end, it did pay off in the end, having to play him second, where yeah, I'm just saying, like, generally I think that came off pretty well. It reminded me a little bit of the British and Irish Lions with Mornay Steyn coming up right at the end. And I think we also felt in that game, like with the British and Irish Lions, why don't they start Steyn, but they would bring him in second half. Well, not with Pollard, but I mean, you know what I mean. It was a great moment, and yeah, I mean that kick was important, you know.
Yeah, that I mean, it was a game of just so many moments where what if, but this, and you know, either or, each one of them in their own right was the moment of the game. You know,
No.
Cheslin Colby's charge down, it's a
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
like rake it back in the first couple of minutes, or I think it was just before after they first scored. He's like knock it back on the try line to get the turnover.
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
look.
there was the it's a big try, where we
Yeah.
decided to, you know, back our boys and go for the quick tap and, you know, push it up and try and get the score versus, you know, just taking the guaranteed three in front of the post.
Yeah. Also.
Yeah, so many moments, but I'm sure if we dissect it with a set of blue glasses on, I'm pretty sure that there's,
Well,
you know,
they just cried today. It's the ref. It's the ref.
Could have made the margin bigger, or, you know, give them the 2 points that they needed. And you know, it's rub of the green, bounce of the ball, and
rub of the green.
It is
that
what it
works
is
for me.
Yeah.
Rub of the green works for me. Rub of the Springbok green. I mean, it came down to. I just feel with the All Blacks in the Springboks game, it came down to the end of the game. It's just that big match temperament, and I just feel that I know the French was playing for a home final, but I also just feel the Springboks. There's this belief in this 23, well, not just 23, the whole squad, in wanting to win this World Cup again, and I think they just dug really, really deep. I felt the same with the All Blacks. I think for the Springboks, it was saying this is not going to be the end for us. We're going to fight right till the last moment. For the All Blacks game, I think it was almost, they felt a little bit like disrespected in many ways after all the stuff that Ireland, you know, have said to them and whatever. So they also went in with a grudge. But we'll chat about the All Blacks. But for me, the Springboks, you know, winning the game at the end, I do feel that they showed a lot of like a big match temperament at the end, working down that clock, and it was a fabulous, you know, win for them at the end. If you think about it, I was very frustrated watching the game because I felt I just felt they could have played a little bit more to their strengths, which is the set pieces, instead of just fire to fire with the running type game. But we pulled it off, so it was a great one in the end. Yeah, what did you think? Like that's what I felt with the overall game, you know.
Yeah, I mean, both those, you know, the two really big close matches of the weekend. You know, the ABs in Ireland as well as the Boks in France. You know, those defensive efforts at the end of the game just like completely took the other team out of it. Where with like the ABs and their defense, at one point, and that was a pretty lengthy. I think it was like 5 or 6 minutes worth of attack from Ireland to try and crack the defense.
Mm.
And I think about 2 3 minutes into it they didn't look like they've got any idea what to do on that. They looked like they were starting to walk around with the ball, just kind of wait for the defenders to catch up to them and set the next phase where they didn't really inject that pace into the attack.
Mm.
And I think that
Also,
it was also just such a frantic game that I think they kind of ran out of gas a little bit
yeah.
to inject more pace into the game. And with the Boks in France, it's the same thing. When that defensive effort kicked in, at one point it started looking like France was struggling to
Yeah.
kind of figure out how to step it up, and then
Yeah.
they had that
Right
little
at the
break
end.
down the blind side. That was pretty scary. We defended them back, and then the I mean that line break or potential line break where Faf ripped the ball
Mm.
to end the game.
Mm.
Uh,
Big moment.
that was a big moment for them. If they were able to reset another phase from there, I think we possibly
Yeah.
could have been in a bit of trouble because
It was a risky
Boys
situation.
was on the
It
back
was a
foot there.
risky situation. I mean, it's almost like, you're standing and someone's going to kick you in the nuts now and you're just waiting for it. That's how it felt to me. And just knowing that that person didn't drop the kick was in your nuts is like, you are so thankful that you got away with that, because I was just waiting for it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be devastation for us. And it didn't at the end, and I was like, what, did we just win this game? And I think that's why my reaction after the game, when I gave my reaction, was a bit, it wasn't like, yeah, like Springboks just dominated this game. It was like, you're tough, lucky, thankful. Not just lucky. There was obviously a lot put into the game, but from both sides. And I just felt that game could have gone either way, like in many ways. But I'm just glad that we came off on the right side.